Okay, so hey Lauren, how you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing good, doing good. So we have I have you on today because we've chatted a bunch about your situation and what you've been through, and I think you bring a really, really cool perspective to the table about what it means to go buy a fixer-upper using an FHA 203K or renovation loan. One, because you just did it, and two, you're a realtor, right? So like you're in the industry. Pull me in. What did you end up doing? Did you get like a complete gut job or something that just need like a little bit of sprucing up? Fill me in.
Yeah, so we had only been in the market for a little bit and just seeing at what was out there in our price range, we very quickly pivoted towards the 203K because a lot of stuff in that 5 to 650 price range needs a little bit of work. To answer your question, we ended up going the full spread. We had a failed septic, a questionable roof, bathrooms where the subfloor was a little bit rotted out. So we did got a lot of it down to the studs. The
Mhm.
home itself was from 1889. So just to paint a little bit of a picture of the condition, there was a lot of horsehair plaster, some dated
Yeah.
plumbing, dated electrical. So yeah, we went the full 203K as opposed to
Okay.
the limited. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a difference there. So there's a
Yeah.
full 203K and a limited.
Yep, the
Now,
limited would be perfect for a failed septic by itself, maybe
yeah.
one bathroom, a roof potentially. So one big project that might be looming over the buyers that is kind of the only thing in between them and that house, where the
Yeah.
location could be good, the size could be good, but there's just that one big ticket item that they don't quite have the knowledge or means
Mhm.
to tackle, so they can finance it right into their loan, which is a cool
Yeah.
concept.
Love that. Love that. And you said some things that I know scare away some people, right? Age of the house, horsehair plaster, full gut job, right?
Yep.
Like some differences there. That's probably the benefit of you coming to the table as an agent, right? You have a little bit more understanding than anyone else out there. But fill me in. Is it your first time doing a renovation? Did you still have some of those butterflies? Because at the same time, you were a first time buyer, right? So,
Yep.
like, even though you're an agent, you come to the situation with all that knowledge of being a good high producing agent. Was any of the first time buyer butterflies the I can't believe we're doing a renovation for our first house? Did you ever get to kind of almost step out of the fact that you are an agent and still live in that world of being a first time buyer going through what a lot of first time home buyers are scared to do, which is take on a big renovation? Like, fill me in there as to what that felt like.
Yeah, so there was a few moments in the process where, yeah, those butterflies hit, and we
Mhm.
were both like, oh my gosh, what did we take on?
Mhm.
But that's also kind of the beauty of the renovation loan, where again, I had a little bit of that understanding going into it as a realtor, but
Mhm.
this was the first time I used the product, which kind of opened up the door for like, how great could this be for buyers?
Mhm.
But what was nice was the draw process. So that kind of
Yeah.
kept us on track in not overspending, where I feel like as a first-time home buyer, it's like, where should we put our money?
Mhm.
What order should we do it in? So there's actually a HUD consultant that is assigned to your loan that'll
Mhm.
come out and inspect throughout the process before they hand you that reimbursement check. So
Yeah.
that I feel like was a few times that my boyfriend, he's a plumber, but there was a few times where he was like, "Oh, wait, like the little bit of nerves and kind of take
Mhm.
a step back." But it was nice because we had all those people in place that did
Yeah.
help us stay on track. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So I'm going to dive into one piece that you brought up because I think the goal of doing a renovation loan, from my perspective, is one, you get to make the house yours, right? And
Hmm.
two, it opens up more inventory, and inventory in New England's a problem, right? There's just
Yes.
not a lot of
Yeah.
inventory. So anytime you can solve those two problems of like upgrade a house and also as you're shopping, look at more homes, it's a good thing. But that fear, the dauntingness of doing all the work, am I getting a limited because I'm only doing a little bit? And that's the two different 203Ks. Am I getting full because I'm doing a gut job? You went to full, and you ended up with you kind of hinted towards having almost like a team in the background
Yes.
that like was a good safety net to fall into. And you brought up a HUD consultant. What does that person do?
Yeah, so they are actually assigned by the bank, similar in the way that an appraiser is assigned just during a regular loan process, to make sure that what's borrowed from the bank and the value go hand in hand. So there's no mismanaging of funds, overspending. The person that we ended up working with, Richard, I have no notes on. He has been great. He was great for answering questions. He had some small recommendations when we were going through similar to an appraisal process, but they want to make sure that you have a scope of work going into it and they know they're lending the right amount of money to cover said work.
Yep.
So that HUD consultant really was a crucial piece and he was very helpful throughout where the contractors are great, but they're more there to execute than educate.
Yep.
So they want to know what, when, how much, and like
Mhm.
they're there to get it all done.
Mhm.
But your realtor, your lenders, such as yourself and the HUD consultant, are more on the back end paperwork side of things, and they're there to
Yep.
help educate. So he was great. Yeah, to answer your
Yep.
question.
And that team, right? The ones I've done and talked to other people who have done them before, because, and even talking to HUD consultants and other contractors,
Hmm.
because there's a lot of movement in what you're doing, because you're wrinkling in construction alongside of financing,
Yep.
alongside of contract negotiation. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving pieces. You got to have those right people in place, right? From a working with the lender perspective, did you feel like you got a good run of what you're able to do? And, how well did that help you? Again, I think a little bit of a cheat code being a realtor. How
Yeah.
well did that help you in preparation, knowing that you could look at a house like this and know, hey, I have a tool in the toolbox called a renovation loan that can take care of all these things,
Yeah.
right? And you got to have that education up front. How much did that help just in you guys narrowing down? Like, when did you choose that you're going to go buy a fixer upper, right? Was it learning about the 203K, or did you already want to do that and then you learned about what a 203K is?
So we thankfully kind of right off the bat had that in the back of our mind, but we weren't sure in which avenue we were going to achieve it. But pretty much the plan the whole time was a fixer-upper, just being realistic, kind of at the location we were looking for and at what price point we were kind of already gearing our way towards some sort of property that would need a little bit of love,
Okay.
just to make sure you kind of get what you're looking for, but remain within that budget, which is I feel like the main priority for a lot of people.
Mhm.
And yeah, so we knew pretty much going into it. Being a realtor, I had a general understanding of it, just hearing about it in passing from other lenders, other realtors who have used it as a solution.
Mhm.
So it was kind of in the back of my mind, but just when we toured this very particular property, the light bulb kind of went off. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is perfect for this. My boyfriend's mom was a little nervous
Mhm.
because it was I can see how it would be a very daunting task to someone who's not in the construction industry or the real
Yep.
estate industry, just looking at it objectively, being like, are we sure this is a good investment?
Yep.
So she was a little nervous. She loves the property now. She loves coming over and seeing what we're working on. She sees the big picture.
Mhm.
But yeah, you definitely have to kind of have that mentality going into it and
Yep.
also really talking out all the questions that are coming to the surface. So
Mhm.
just to make sure that everyone stays synced up on the same page and also you're feeling good as you're moving through what can be overwhelming because like you just said, you're not only purchasing just the
Yep.
financing piece of everything, you're also basically in a construction loan where all of that work's going on simultaneously or not going on, it's just getting started. You get those quotes and everything at the same time you're going through your mortgage application process. So
Yes.
it's quite a bit moving parts to just full disclosure so people have that understanding going into it.
Yep. I like to say to clients up front sometimes when they're just starting the approval process, when they're just starting to shop buying a house and doing the thing you need to do to buy a house, right? I joke with them, I'm like, look, once you have a house, for the next 30 to 45 days, depending on what the closing is, buying a house becomes almost like a second job to you, right?
Yes,
You're
time
going to
consuming.
be, it's going to be eating some time up at the end of the day. When you normally should be going to do this, you might have to go do this instead, talk to your lender to do that. You're going to have a part-time job for a little bit of time, but then your life goes back to normal and you just go to making payments and living your life. So if you're okay knowing that you're going to have to just do a little bit more to get there, then that helps like ease that nerve of well, why is my lender asking me for this? Why is my realtor asking me for this? Right? Like just explain that up front. I even joke deeper with the renovation, like getting a second job plus another part-time job on top of that
Yes.
second job. Because now you're picking finishes, right? Now you're doing
Yep.
all of that. So what did you end up doing? Or what was your favorite part of the renovation you did? Right? Because that's the fun part for me is you get to
Yeah.
go like, okay, now we get to we get to go shopping for cool stuff for a house and live the HGTV world.
Yes.
What was the fun part?
So that was definitely a big fun part for me because I definitely have an emphasis with old homes as
Mm,
far as my real estate career goes. So just more restoring as opposed to renovating. So it was
yep.
nice to kind of bring those wooden details, some molding, like all those fun aspects back to life as opposed to just ripping them out and renovating it.
Mhm,
That was really fun for me, kind of bringing it back to life, bringing it back to its glory.
mhm,
The wood floors were in great shape, so we really lucked out there refinishing them, and it was just like you could totally see the house in a whole new light. The finishes were fun as well, but it was also from the career standpoint of being in real estate, just learning the whole process, start to
mhm,
finish, of what comes in what order, the rough inspections for the plumbing and electrical, then the
mhm.
framing, then the insulation, then the sheetrock, and then all the fun, pretty stuff, the
Yep.
yeah, like the fixtures in the bathroom and a nice clawfoot tub
Yep.
potentially, and yeah, so
Yep.
that fun stuff that comes in. But it was also very interesting to really nail down the process, which gives me a better understanding as
Mhm.
well.
It's cool growing up in construction and being on a lot of new construction spec build homes.
Hmm.
It's same for me. Like I love thinking back to those memories for me of being at a like just framed house. And like this is the kit. This is gonna be the kitchen. This is gonna be the bathroom. These are gonna be the bedrooms, and it's just plywood and two by fours, right?
Yes, yeah,
To then seeing what it looks like finished. It's a super cool just thing to see contractors do that and how fast they can do it and how well they can do it, right? So like that, I love hearing that because whenever I talk to a client that's potentially interested in a renovation loan, forget about like the nitty gritty steps and everything, all very important. It's like anything else that you're going on into that requires good planning. You've got to
yes,
have the right execution and planning to make the fun part fun. But I really like to emphasize that fun part of like, if you've never done that before, you might do this and get addicted to it. Like it's kind
yes,
of like one
right,
of those things where
right.
I'm sure you guys have already chatted about that. Of like, well, now that we've done it, like, what if we
Yeah,
do this again in a few years with the next house, right? Has any of
right.
those conversations already happened?
Not too much because that's more
Yeah,
like my area expertise as opposed to my boyfriend Steve. He's a plumber by trade. So for
yeah,
him, it was more like he was doing a lot of the manual labor and I got to just kind of be project manager, bossing everybody around. So it was
yeah,
probably more fun for me than it was for him. But even in the real estate career, like if I were to get into it with another realtor
mhm,
or someone else who would also be interested in that as an investment, it's nice to like the options are kind of endless. So I don't know if him and I
yeah,
will do it from a business partner perspective, where
mhm,
I think where this is our primary residence, he's like, nope, the once is good for
yeah,
me, which might be the case for some people.
yeah,
They don't want to live that TV life, but it's a great way to break into it.
yeah,
But I could definitely see myself doing a lot more because I already was very interested in this before
mhm,
we looked into this as part of our home buying process. So I already kind of had that itch
yeah,
beforehand.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, well, because
a little
when you
bit of
see
both.
that, when you see it happen, if you already have the itch and then you see it happen, that's the like, well, I have the itch again and I want to see it happen again.
Yeah.
I want to try a different color kitchen or a
Yes.
different color tile or it's the fun process, right? Where real estate in New England as a buyer hasn't been much fun. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of inventory.
Recently.
Yeah, so
Right.
like it's
Right.
almost if you're able to take on, the right way of doing it, which would you agree with me that the best way to do a renovation loan is just in the preparation, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
agree with that wholeheartedly. Getting the correct quotes during the bid process when you're
Mhm,
actually under agreement
mhm,
prior to your closing date, I think is crucial because thankfully the realtor that was the listing agent also had a
Mhm.
great understanding of renovation loans. So she
Yeah.
was awesome in the sense of letting us in probably a
Mhm.
few more times than what's average when under agreement for a house, just to make sure we got all those final quotes. And a lot of
Mhm.
our quotes were very, very close to what our actual costs were, because there's
Yeah.
nothing worse than somebody offhand not even seeing the property saying it's going to cost a certain amount for some plumbing renovation, and then you
Mhm.
get in there and surprise, it's $8,000 more than you were quoted. So that
Yeah.
preparation and bid process is actually so crucial. Even if it takes a little bit of extra effort in the beginning, it's like time well spent.
Yeah. And then lining it up with your pre-approval expectations, your
Yep.
budget, like having that all lined up, because then it's just a mortgage, but it's a mortgage and a contract in real estate with the fund piece.
Yes.
More
Yeah.
work though. So that's that second job because now you're
Yep.
going to, warehouses on a Wednesday afternoon to pick tile up, right? Like
Yep.
so more time and effort, but slightly different outcome, which that's the part that I love about any type of sweat equity, right?
Yes.
Is usually there's a multiplication that's happening because how much do you have to put down with the FHA 203K? I don't think it's a lot, if I can remember.
Yeah, so it does depend on the scope of work as well. So we could have put down a little bit less money than we did,
Mhm.
but then we kind of tried to add an extra project or two. So it's
Ah,
relative to what the bank is lending back to you as well. So we put down a little bit more with our down payment, and then they do collect typically 3 months of reserves as well.
mhm,
So same thing, it's definitely worth having the conversation preemptively with a lender such as yourself, where it can be more money down, but then it feels like it goes so much further. Where, like,
yeah.
even if we didn't put that down on the house, would I have managed it well enough to have it go as far in those renovations by
Mhm,
myself? So it was worth kind of tying it up in the bank with our down payment, knowing that it was just improving the
mhm.
condition of the property.
And now, did you end up with more equity than in relation to down payment you put down at the end of it, right? So whatever your
Yes.
loan amount is now, and it
Yep.
has all that math in there, what you put down and how much your renovation costs were and your purchase price. It's a one and done, right? So it's just here's your new loan amount. This is what you owe. Again, beauty of you being a realtor is
Yep.
from that lens of okay, what is my house worth now? Right? Are
Yes.
you sitting in a greater equity position than you would have if you had to put that just money down? Right, if
By
that
a
makes sense.
long shot, yes. And we wouldn't have been able to just qualify for this. Like, we were in that semi first time home buyer price point, and then
Mhm.
once the repairs are done, we wouldn't even have been able to gone out and buy a house at that price range. So our purchase price was 530,000. We financed in about 90,000 worth of renovation. So our total loan amount is on that 620
Mhm.
number, which is an average purchase price in Massachusetts. So we could have went out and found something for 620 that didn't need as much work, but it still would have needed something
Yeah.
in most cases.
Mhm.
So our all-in finance amount is 620,000, and then we just got the appraisal back for the after renovations, and
Yeah.
it appraised for about 750.
Good.
So yeah,
That
in
when
a
I'm
year.
chatting with when I'm chatting with
Yeah.
anyone, first time buyer or not, the sweat equity availability of just what you're doing because you're buying a house that particularly when you go to the far end of the spectrum
Hmm.
of fixer upper, right? Where you're competing against, cash investors and someone who's going to be looking at the house from a different lens than someone who's going to live in
Yes.
it, is you have now that cheat code of I'm not trying to make a profit when I sell this house because I'm going to live in it.
Yes,
And you're able
exactly.
to give the seller a little bit more money than the investor. So it makes you more
Hmm.
competitive. But then once you finish the renovation, because you're still getting a property that's not at the tip top of the market, so you're not
Yeah.
paying like premium dollar relative. Once you do all that work, though, if you buy the $550,000 house in the $700,000 neighborhood and
Right.
you put a
Yeah.
hundred, all of a sudden you have a better equity position, right? Than
Yep.
you would have if you just went and bought the $700,000 house, right? So like that,
Definitely.
I think the unlocking of that extra equity, that part alone, if someone's looking at it fundamentally and not the fun part, right? Like I like the fun part, the fundamentals
Yeah.
when it comes to renovation. Like
Don't
that's the
we
cool
all?
part.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's also those tangibles on the back end of like, can you even get the 750 house, right? Does this let you
Right.
have a better home for cheaper, right? Because now it's less money in, you owe less, your dollar goes a little bit further, you've got all
Exactly.
updated mechanical, right? So like that is all good stuff from that standpoint as to just, reasons I think to even have a conversation with a realtor and a lender. And I think ultimately a contractor at the very beginning,
Yes.
right? To because the ones I've done, that's always been I don't want to say North Star to point to go like, hey, what's going to cause a renovation loan to go good or bad, right? And I think it's the hiring of the right contractor, and then also having a good HUD consultant, like you talked about, in
Yes.
your corner, because then did it feel like you had that person almost that could like kind of hold your hand for any of the questions that you didn't
Very
have answers
much.
to? Okay.
Yes, very much so. And even still, he'd be like, take a picture, text it to me. Like he was so easy to communicate,
Mm,
aside from all of his knowledge as well, is was just his professionalism. As he's like, yep, thanks for running it by me, shoot me a picture. And like
mm,
it was very accessible. It was nice to have him. He
yep.
was great. Yeah.
Nice. What happened when you hit some hiccups? Because I feel like every renovation hits a hiccup. Did you have any hiccups? Was there anything in the loan program that helped with the hiccup? Right?
Yes.
And kind of fill me in.
Yeah, so that would be that reserves that I mentioned a little bit
Okay.
earlier. So obviously, at any home inspection, you're not going to have X-ray vision, so you can get like a pretty good idea of what's going on, but
Mm,
sometimes you just open the walls up and there's that surprise. So we
yeah.
did, from some water intrusion on one corner of the roof, we did have a rotted corner post going from the sill of the
Well,
base, well, going from the attic all the way
yeah.
down to the sill of the basement. The window right there, you could basically like it was so spongy. I could have pushed it right out the exterior
Yep.
wall. So not what you want to see as far as structural integrity.
Mm,
But thankfully, when we opened up the walls, that was basically the only bit that had been exposed to the elements that
yep.
was definitely in a little bit of rough shape, but that was not on our original bid and quote. So since the renovation loan requires that extra reserves, we were
Mm,
actually able to tap into that with no additional money out of pocket because we
nice.
have that built into the loan for surprises.
Yep.
And same thing, we got that all cleaned up, replaced that window. We did a change order.
Mm,
So since it wasn't originally on the bid, we just had to basically ask permission as to that's why we were tapping into our reserves and
yep.
what it was going for and what it would cost. And then same thing, the change order got turned around so quick, got approved.
Mm.
They addressed it as soon as we found it because it was basically like that was one of those big like yikes, oh no.
You just don't have the
And
house fall that direction.
yes,
Just
right. We
go ahead
didn't
and
want
take
it
care
to
of that.
lean and
Yep.
yeah. And even still, even though it had that little bit of damage, everything else was so solid, we were still in good
Mm,
shape. We did have
yep.
it inspected after, had to pass the permits and inspections and
Mm,
everything. And yeah, so they buttoned that up and before we insulated and sheetrocked and it's solid now. So
nice.
that was nice. Those reserves were built in for the
Yep.
unexpected. Yeah.
So because you have, I think, the two best safety nets. Well, there's
Yes.
three safety nets of a 203K loan that I think are the most utilized and the highest effectiveness, right? Which is that contingency reserve, like you just mentioned, for your hiccup, because there's always
Mhm.
going to be a hiccup, right? And I
Yes.
think that's just
It's wise to
straightforward.
expect it. Yeah.
Yes, right. And I think that's just built in there because that's anyone in the space knows the moment you start a project, plan on more projects, right?
Yeah.
Like that. There's always a rule of thumb in construction. Like if you think it's going to cost X, add 30% to it because there's always going to be something. So having that reserve, which is huge, because that could be a daunting part for a first time home buyer, even
Yes.
if they're self funding their own work, right? Is I think it's going to cost 50,000, but if it costs more than 50,000, I don't have more than 50,000. So like
Right.
it could be a fear and a pullback. So that could help. So it's the reserve, the HUD consultant, right? And then what do you do in a situation like did you guys have to use the payment escrow because you couldn't live in the house for a period of time too?
Yes, we did tap
Okay.
into that as well. I had an apartment over in Whitman, so we did live there for the first 6 months of the renovation loan because same
Yeah.
thing, there was no working sewer system,
Mm,
no running water, no hooked up electrical, so it wasn't exactly habitable.
yeah.
So yeah, we did use 3 months worth worked into our closing costs. Same thing, planned accordingly for. So we ended
Mm,
up using a little bit less of a down payment, moving it over there to where it made the most sense. And we
yeah.
did use those 3 months reserves as well for the mortgage payment, which was a huge weight off our shoulders because paying for both properties at the same time. And then it
Yeah.
was so nice once we were able to say goodbye to the apartment, move into the whole first floor, which was newly renovated and
Mm,
more beautiful than we could have even imagined. Like the high
yeah.
ceilings, that little bit of woodwork and detail work that we mentioned
Mm,
too, that new construction homes today just don't have. And
yeah.
sometimes new construction's exactly what something's looking for, but we have a little bit of an old soul, so we love the old home. So it
Yeah.
was, yeah,
And
it
to
was,
get the old soul style in a
yes,
new modern home is
yeah,
not cheap. Like
yeah,
that is
right,
have fun finding the guy or gal that still does the really fancy railings coming
yes,
down
right,
with like the little circles and everything. It just you don't. So like
yeah,
you just don't find that stuff anymore, or the inlays and how everything's laid out. So that's pretty cool. But the
yeah.
payment escrow, so you were able to have the mortgage pay itself, essentially.
Yeah, basically
Just
those
double dip.
first 3 months, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was a little bit of overlap, which we expected because we knew
Yeah.
we weren't going to be able to turn around a full gut
Hmm.
in under 3 months. And we started right in the winter. So there was like same thing, some things that it's safe to expect for. The ground
Yep.
was a little bit frozen when we went to go start the septic system. So that was
Mhm.
like a small delay. But not anything that was too scary and not kind of talked about going into it, which
Yeah.
again brings it back to your point about the team of the people that are there to highlight those expectations so you're not
Mhm.
really stunned and shocked when
Yeah.
something comes up.
Yeah. That's to me, these three things are like they nerf the edges of fear, right? Because you can get into an FHA 203K loan with 3.5% down. It's an
Hmm.
FHA loan. If you qualify for it, you qualify for it. So I think where there's like holdback of even people exploring this for fixer uppers, one, it's just daunting to do the fixer upper. We talked about the
Yeah.
timing. Some people just don't want to do that. But
Yep.
it's maybe the misunderstanding of there's some safety nets, right? It's built out. Like that's when I explain it to clients, that's the emphasis I go in after the fun part is, you can set up a reserve to pay down your mortgage for you if you need to stay in your current rental for a period of
Hmm.
time and the house isn't habitable, right? Because that's a question that pops up a lot. And you have a HUD consultant that you can chat with, and they're not your lender, they're not your realtor, they're not your attorney, they're not your contractor, and they don't have a lot of skin in the game to really just give you anything other than the truth, right? Like
Yes,
their fee is
exactly.
their fee, and they get paid up front. So it's like,
Yep.
hey, I'm just here to help at this point and to make sure this draw process goes well. There's no like other motive of any kind, right? So now you have someone that you can go, hey, I just need help because I don't
Yeah.
know. And they're
Yeah.
typically all ex contractors or building inspectors,
Yep.
right? So they're very knowledgeable. They're unbiased, which is huge. And then there's a contingency reserve that just lets you know if you hit a snag in the road, you're also covered there, right? So like it just opens up that inventory, but also creates that equity, which I think is huge. And like
I
the
agree,
fear.
especially in our area too, where I feel like sometimes you are in that multiple offer situation, or same thing, like you said, you're up against investors, but you're willing to spend a little bit more because it is going to be your forever home. So it just
Mm,
opens it up to so many more possibilities than we've seen these last couple of years. So I
yeah,
feel like it just kind of, I don't even know if we gave it much thought before we decided we were going to look into it because it almost just presented itself like the best option. Yeah. And I was
yeah.
like, it's so clear this is going to be great. And
That
it ended up being great. So it was awesome.
that's what I've noticed with most of the clients I've done them with too. And me and my wife did one for our house. We bought our house first, lived in it for a while, then did a renovation refinance, which is
Hmm.
also kind of a little bit of a secret power because then
Yeah,
you can just, if you have a house that's habitable, you can get in and just close. And then you still unlock all these features when you go to refinance. So then, but then
exactly.
you have no pressure of contract, right? So like we did that step because we didn't have the time to do all of the picking of the fixtures, and we didn't know what we wanted to do and how much it was going to cost, and we just needed to get into the house. So then we just waited a year and refinanced and gained all of that equity and renovated a bunch of stuff that way, right? So like
Nice. Yeah.
it can
Like you said,
help.
a different option kind of for,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
those
but what I've
renovations.
noticed is a lot of the clients I've done them with before, they all kind of come to the table like, I already know this is most likely the direction that I'm heading in,
Yep.
right? What do you have to say to the people that are a little on the fence and think it might be too daunting, right? Because it's kind of what we just covered. That is, it's more work. There's
Yeah.
definitely more. You can't avoid
Right.
that. There's no avoidance of it. But we covered some of the safety stuff. Like, what's the good advice for the people that are like, hey, I'm hitting my head against the wall because there's not enough houses for sale. And, when I go look at the house that needs a little bit of love and it's been sitting on the market for a little while, and we'd love to try to do this,
Yep.
but they just don't even make that first move on the chessboard towards like, let's call a contractor. Like, we can't call a contractor. We don't own the house, right? Like,
Yep.
just that fear of indecision. I do think it stops a lot of people from even getting to the point that they talk to me about being pre-approved for a renovation loan. Is
Yes.
they go to that open house for the house that needs some love and they're interested, but they just stop, right? They
Yes.
stop the investigation
Yeah.
completely because they just go to the next open house and go, let's just go for this one, right? Like, what do you say to that person that's kind of interested and almost talking themselves out of it because they think it might be too daunting?
Yeah. I feel like it's more asking them the questions about what is daunting about it. Because, like you said, there's kind of, it's not that it's complicated, it's just complex. So it's finding out what their like reservation is specifically, and then
Mm,
also kind of taking them like holding their hand almost, going to check out a property that same thing, that's my responsibility to find what's available, find those
mm,
creative options on the realtor side of things. So I have done it with one person before. They ended up not going the renovation loan route,
mm,
but they almost did.
mm,
We found a house that had been on for 82 days. It was an estate sale, so it was vacant. They
mm,
had a contractor they had worked with before. So I'm like, let's schedule a showing. We'll set that expectation with the list agent. We're going to be there for a while. Let's make sure we coordinate it on a day and time that works for your contractor. And
mm.
I feel like we're so empowered after that showing because it was different than a typical showing and or an open house, especially
Yeah.
at the open house where there's a small window. You're there with several other people, kind of just shuffling through. So just kind of starting that process with him. And he almost went that route, but he actually ended up getting an opportunity where he inherited a house about a year later from a family member. So then same
Tough to
thing,
pass that up. Yeah.
right, right. So
Yeah.
like the plans just like anything, it's always based on
Yeah.
the client's needs and everything. And he was like, why would I go out and buy a house when I just inherited one? So things
Yeah.
change.
Yes.
But after that initial appointment with this contractor and everything, he was like, I didn't even know this was an option. I feel so much better now that I know what some of this stuff could cost. Because it's hard
Hmm.
going in there, especially as a first time buyer, not really having anything to lean back on as far as quotes.
Yeah.
And nor should you just like eyeball and guess at stuff. You really need those hard numbers in terms of
Yeah.
what is it going to cost me? Is this something I can afford? Which is also the beauty of a home inspection period, but
Yeah.
that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. Which I think is also the beauty of the combo of the team.
Yeah.
And when I'm listening, coming from the world of construction, coming from the world of lending now, done a renovation loan personally, done some as a lender. What I heard in that was you went to the showing and the contractor came.
Yes.
I use that as like a test barrier of, hey, I think I kind of want to do this. I'm a first time buyer or whatever. We're looking at a renovation loan, talking to you, the lender, and I need some guidance. What should I do?
Hmm.
I almost tell them the first step, because they probably already have a realtor at that point. The
Yep.
first step, before even looking at any houses, really, in a weird way, which sounds very counterintuitive, is to actually go interview contractors beforehand,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Go find the right contractor and paint the picture of what you want to do, right? Of because you don't have a house yet, just say like we want to buy a big fixer upper in Plymouth that's around 400 grand, and we want to do the kitchen, bathroom, and just get a ballpark from that contractor of what, that looks like with similar finishes that you want. So you
Hmm.
just know what that is, and then see if that contractor is willing to walk around houses with you. Because that's usually a weird test barrier of, is this a contractor who's going to be able to manage what a draw process looks like with a renovation?
Yes, exactly.
And
Which I think you and I have touched on briefly in the past is right. Contractors are, they're so hands-on, they're there to do the work, but they definitely need to have that paperwork compliance aspect
mhm,
if they're going to be part of a renovation loan. A lot of
yep,
contractors are familiar with a construction loan, though, new construction, where builders use that same type of draw process. They do the
mhm,
work and then get
and get paid.
reimbursed, so on and
Yep.
so forth. So there's plenty out there that can definitely make it work, but it is important to find out that they are can get their paperwork in on time and they
Mhm.
can answer questions. And you, like you said, you want to have that good team. And same thing. Luckily, we worked with someone who was great, but it was nice being in real estate myself because I felt that I was more of the compliance person, just making sure
Yep.
everything was dated and signed in the
Mhm.
right order and
Mhm.
scanned and sent in. So, yeah, definitely something to make note of as well if you're going to go that route.
Yep.
Someone who's willing to put in that effort for you too.
Because it's huge. And because then if they walk the property with you, so if it's, let's say you're the client and you're there with your realtor, you're also there with your contractor. Like you said, you're having now a completely different showing experience than a regular open house, than even just a regular showing on a house that's already done, right? Because
Yep.
now you're almost having a home inspection without it formally being a home inspection, right? And I
Hmm.
know those are two completely different things, so don't ever replace a home inspection with
Yes,
just a contractor walking through a house.
of
But
course. Yeah.
you're at least, if you're a dentist and you don't know anything about construction, right, or renovation, or how to look at a house to say, hey, there might be some mold behind that wall because I can see it's spongy, right?
Hmm.
Or just what to look for. Having that contractor there with you, it at least will help uncover some of that, right?
Yep.
And then with your realtor, go, hey, this place is going to need 150 grand worth of work. What should we offer for a price, right?
Yes.
Because
Right.
that's what I've heard in the marketplace where they die, is where the price offered doesn't represent what they actually need to do for the house,
Hmm.
renovation wise, and they get the house under agreement, and then they go find a contractor,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And I think that's where some of the, because I don't know if you've seen it or heard it in the industry, that these are hard to do. They fall apart all the time, right? They're daunting. They never close on time. That's what I
Hmm.
hear, right? Because that's what I hear sometimes when I have clients making offers, is listing agents just being a little on the like, I don't know if we want to
Hesitant
go.
towards yeah.
Yes, because they've maybe heard from a colleague at a broker open that, oh, my renovation loan just died
Yes.
last week. We were in it for 3 months and then it finally fell apart. Never accept one of those. I think
Yeah.
they get that stigma sometimes, because when they do fall apart, it is usually that. It is the 60 days slow burn that,
Yes.
kills the deal and not, right up front, right?
Right.
Which, if you can take that step as a buyer and walk the property with the contractor and your realtor ahead of time, forget about all the safety nets that are in the loan once you've closed or you're about to close. That's really the safety net to not waste time as a buyer, right?
Right,
In a
right.
way,
And you might miss out on a different property that's the right fit. And
yeah,
right, to the really hit the nail on the head with the preparation going into it. So
yeah.
you're not wasting anyone's time. You have those clear quotes and everything prior to even getting that far into the process.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think realtors who don't have an understanding of it, just like any type of loan product, can be a
Mhm.
little hesitant towards it, where then that falls back onto my job as the realtor for the buyer to
Yeah,
call them up, kind of not even educate because everyone's got their own experience in the field,
mhm.
but just like highlight the certain things in the process, the things we've already done as to why this makes us a good candidate for the house, the certain things about the house, because every single property is different, where some of them's going to be something very minimal, or versus like the one we took on was a full gut job. And we
Yeah,
lucked out at the first open house, the list agent was like, perfect candidate for a renovation loan. Have you ever heard of it? Is this
Perfect.
something you're interested in? And I was like,
Yep.
hello, nice to meet you. Like,
Yes.
so me
And
and
that's the
her were great working together. She was awesome.
yeah, that's a tip and
When,
trick I give buyers too is
yeah,
look for good indicators and descriptions, right? Like if it says cash only, investor only
yeah,
in the description, we're probably going to know that that list agent's going to be a little advantageous to any type of financing, right? For
hmm
whatever reason, just an
right. They
iceberg
might know
effect.
something we don't, which
Yep,
is our job to figure out.
yep. But
Yeah,
then, like, and then if it says renovation loan, investor, cash, I like that one because
yeah,
obviously that list agent is open to it. It's they're marketing it to say, hey, we already know we're familiar and we're looking for a good dance partner and we know this program's out there, right?
yeah,
So you're not going to have as much of a uphill climb with a listing that you're trying to almost like sell on, hey, here's a benefit. But I've had that happen too. I've actually
yep,
had a few deals where the listing agent was against it at the beginning, but then it's all about that communication up front, the timing, the explaining, hey, the realtor's on board, they've already met with the contractor, and you know, just give us a chance
yeah,
to line it up. And if it doesn't line up, we'll walk away as fast as we physically can, right?
yes, right.
Because that's also ideal for the buyer, so that we're not 60 days into this realizing that it doesn't work,
Right. And
right?
same thing at the buyer's expense, they've done a home inspection. They might have paid for some of those quotes and everything where they're that much more invested cost wise, where that's not in their best interest either, where no buyer would want to waste the seller's time or their own money.
Yep.
And it's nice to always potentially, especially if it goes successfully, like the one I've experienced and then the few since then, is it's nice to change someone's perspective on it too, of like, wow, these are possible and it
Mm-hmm.
is a cool program and kind of open those doors for more buyers down the road in the future as
Yep.
they become more, hopefully more normalized, just like
Yep.
any kind of good product that's out there and has a lot of potential.
Yep. Well, because they were very utilized before COVID.
Yeah,
So before COVID, there was more foreclosures. There was just more opportunity. I think the COVID market and now since,
yeah,
because it's been so seller focused, that it's almost closed the door on what is considered a fixer upper now, right?
yeah,
Because there was so much emphasis on there's not a lot of inventory. So now the house that was probably a fixer upper in a previous market that a contractor might have gotten for a good price is getting a really high retail number. So the
yes,
seller's not very incentivized because they're like, I don't care that I have wood paneling in the basement. My house is still worth a
right,
lot of money, right? Like it doesn't matter. Someone's going to buy it for a good price. I don't need to go through a headache of, waiting 60 days for you to close,
yeah,
right? So that planning up front and buttoning down all that upfront stuff, it sounds like worked out well for you, well for your client. They didn't go that route, but it helped them make the decision on like, hey, at least I did this, know it's an option,
yep,
and I did it the
yeah,
right way. I ended up with a better option. But I think that's really where these can actually shine and be successful is if you do the homework up front and prep up front,
yep,
and you have a team that's helping you do that, but then you go right to the fun. Because I think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
really the superpower is it's our colors now that we want. We're gonna bump out the back and make it bigger because there's so much you can do with the full 203K. And something we didn't touch on, it's
right,
not what you went through, but with the limited 203K, it's a great pivot option if you have a client who's an FHA client and there's something wrong with the property that's FHA specific that they need to
yes,
fix. That's really where I think the limited can shine because that's where like if it is like, hey, we just figured out that the washer machine doesn't work in the kitchen and we really just need all new appliances, but the seller doesn't have the budget for it. We don't have the budget for it. If
yep,
this washer machine doesn't get fixed, this deal's gonna die. It's gonna die over a washer machine, which I think
right,
is the
right,
stigma of why FHA loans have a bad stigma. Is like the washer machine doesn't work, or the dishwasher doesn't work, and now we don't have a working appliance for FHA.
right,
No one can afford to replace the dishwasher, and this deal's gonna die. unless a
Right.
realtor puts a hero cape on and goes to Lowe's, which is
Right.
probably what would happen in most cases. Like, all
In
right,
some cases, something
yeah,
similar like that just came up for me where me and the other agent were just like splitting a cost and being like,
mm,
everyone's happy.
yep,
But yeah, or even like exterior peeling paint, I feel like comes up almost the most for the FHA appraisal
mm,
qualifications where an exterior paint job is, if it's a limited 203K, like that is
quick and easy.
something that's going to bring the value of the house up and going to be
Mm,
money well spent. And it's that one exterior project that's needed to get the loan done, but also is a benefit to the buyer once they move in. The house looks even better than their first showing. So,
yep, and no
yeah, there's,
lead, so don't lick the walls, and
yeah,
you'll be
right.
good to go, right? Yeah, that's
Yep,
and the limited's good. It used to be called the streamlined. I wish that they almost kind of kept that. I know some people still just call it that
yep,
because I think that's the big difference. You don't need a GC, right? So you don't
yes,
need a big contractor. You can just
right.
hire just the paint company for the scenario you came up with.
Yep,
And you don't need a HUD consultant, so you can save a little bit of money. And it's a little bit more streamlined. It's
yep,
just here's the quote from the painter. That's it. There's not like a huge detail run through there of really anything else. There's no like big HUD scope or anything on it. It's pretty quick and easy,
yep,
and you can pivot to it pretty quick and easy, right? Like it's not a hard thing to do mid process,
yes, right.
right? For those small ticky tack things, right? Oh no, septic not small and ticky tack, but you
Yeah,
brought up at the beginning. Oh no, septic failed and we didn't think it was going to. Seller doesn't have money, can't do a holdback for whatever reason. Might be able to
yep.
get that done with the 203K,
Yeah, definitely. I
right?
feel like I see them used mostly for septic systems, at
Yep.
least recently. That's been coming up a lot more because I feel like some of the sellers in today's market did buy during the height of the COVID market. So they're
Yep.
not really hanging out with a whole lot of equity just yet because they've only been in their house for a few short years. They bought at the
Mhm.
height of the market and it's appreciated since then, but not at the same amount as someone who bought in 2008 at
Yep.
what our most recent kind of housing crash
Mhm.
had been, where they have that equity to pull it out, get that done prior to listing. So I'm seeing it come up a lot with septic systems where it just
Yep.
passed when they bought the house in 2021. They're turning around to sell it in 2025, 2026, and it is not passing this time around. And they're like,
Yep.
now it's seller's responsibility. And yeah,
Yep.
I'm seeing that a lot actually right now.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that solves it, right? Like at least that solves it from one angle and
Hmm.
perspective. Is now you can put together a deal where it's not a holdback, it's not proceeds from the seller, the buyer's doing it, and you can do that. You can do that with the full along with the big renovation, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's as long as the value's there and the loan amount's there,
Yep.
you can almost tear down a house and rebuild it with this, which I think is pretty
Basically,
cool.
I feel like that's pretty much what we got to was we gutted it down to the studs on the first floor
Mhm.
and then we did the two bathrooms, the septic. So we're currently living on the first floor and we actually do still need to do the last three bedrooms upstairs. But that's
Yep.
something that now that the loan is closed, we could either, like you said, do a renovation
Mhm.
refinance or like whatever that might look like, but we'll probably tackle them one room at a time and
Yep.
since they're bedrooms, they don't, and we've already done the electrical, is there's not much left to do other than
Mhm.
insulate and sheetrock. So
Yep.
each room should be fairly affordable to tackle one at a time. And that
Mhm.
was that was our plan going into it because we knew that 90,000 we borrowed would only go so far,
Yep.
especially where about a third of it was for the septic system alone. So same thing,
Yeah.
we had a lot of those expectations going into it, and we kind of knew what was going to be left over once we were done.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where we're at, though. But
Yep. And then
yeah,
you just pre-plan for the stuff that you want to do, which I've
yes.
had that conversation a few times too. Like, well, what about the things we want to do our own? Do we have to do those now? And what it comes, it's just all about whatever you need to do to
Hmm.
get the house up to par. And then it's
Yes.
about what you want to do that creates enough value for me to give you the loan as a lender, right?
Yep.
That's how I break that down with the client in that
And
situation. And
I,
then like anything outside of that, you could do later. You don't have to.
yeah. And I feel like you made a really good point that's worth noting is the up to par. So I feel like the HUD
Mhm.
consultant really cares about health and safety. So
Yep.
I personally wanted to make the kitchen all pretty. And we ended up doing just small renovations like painting the cabinets as opposed to repainting or replacing them.
Yep.
We redid the floor because the subfloor was rotted out, but we didn't get to do a full kitchen reno because we had to do the not so glamorous stuff like a French
Yeah.
drain in the basement, the vapor barrier in the basement,
Hmm.
additional permanent supports and concrete footings. So
Hmm.
a little bit of the renovation loan, but all necessary. That
Yeah.
structural stuff and that water repellent stuff that goes on in the basement is definitely
Hmm.
crucial to keeping your house in good condition because, like, we don't want to get musty up down there. We don't want any water intrusion. That's like long term
Mold to
planning.
grow.
Exactly. Where, like, if
Yeah.
we're going to live in this house for the next 30 years as our primary residence, it's not glamorous, but it's necessary. So, like you
Yeah.
said, bringing it up to par is definitely where you learn a lot, especially as a first-time home buyer, of like that health and safety aspect as well.
Hmm.
Where that the kitchen unfortunately had to get punted to a later date, but
Yeah.
I've got all the creative ideas still in my head ready to go. So,
We did the same thing with ours. So when we did our renovation refinance, we originally had the kitchen in the plan
yeah,
and then pulled it because the numbers were like as tight as allowable at
yeah,
that time.
exactly.
And we were like, let's just do all the stuff, like let's do the central air and the windows and the doors and the
Yeah,
insulation and let's do all the stuff that's not really fun. Like the most
yeah,
fun thing we did was we refinished the basement and our bathroom. But
yeah,
everything else was just kind of boring, like
yeah,
couple windows done, which
yeah.
once you're a homeowner, it's actually not boring. You're
Right,
kind
you're
of, I got new
excited.
windows. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, I
how
want to go
lovely.
open them. Yeah, like they actually open and close and they keep
Yeah, they're
my
not
energy bills
painted
down.
shut.
Yeah,
Like,
because I love those like insurance commercials where it's like, the people turning into their parents.
yes,
Dude,
and
that
yeah,
might nail it for me because anytime I see those commercials,
yeah,
I'm like, it's so true. Like the moment you become a homeowner, you instantly start thinking like
right,
every other homeowner out
right.
there,
Like our
right?
parents. Like, how
Yes.
will this impact my gas bill? And I'm like,
Yeah.
who said that?
That's I joke with my wife about when it's dad season.
Yeah.
That's the time of the year, like in between spring and summer and
Hmm.
winter, and then summer and fall and like that window where the air conditioner's not on and the heat's not on.
Yes.
That's dad
Yeah.
season, like
Your
full
time to
control
shine.
of the
Yeah.
thermostat of like we're
Yeah.
not using any energy bills to heat. Open the windows, let the fresh air in. It's
Yep.
65 degrees out. Perfect. Right.
Perfect. Yeah.
Dad season. That's like
Yep.
the no gas, no electricity.
Right.
That we might save like $10. That doesn't really
Right.
it's
Right.
like
But
a
still, it
week.
all adds up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like you're breaking out the New Balances to do the yard cleanup around the same time. And it really is, I feel
Yes.
like, peak dad season. It's
Peak dad
definitely,
season. Yeah.
yeah.
Fertilizer's going down. Like that's the
Yeah.
ultimate. Like that's the
Yep.
best.
Aerating the lawn.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. So you really get excited for like when you were mentioning all those things, all I'm thinking in my head is first time buyer is going to miss a lot of that,
yep.
right? Some
And that's
contractors might even miss
okay.
that. Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. And that's the beauty of the
The
team
HUD.
to,
Yep.
yeah.
The HUD
Yep.
consultant was probably the one that walked the house with you and was like, hey, I know you don't have this on your scope of work, or maybe you do, but I'm
Yep.
going to recommend you do this, or I'm going to tell you that you have to do this.
Pretty
Right.
much to a T exactly how it happened
Yep.
when we were all hunched over in the basement because it was built in 1989. So they weren't building basements for them to get refinished. It
Yeah.
was just the fieldstone foundation. So everyone's kind of leaned over down there.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
that's
So
exactly,
1889. Yep.
yes, 1889. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
Yep.
exactly where we were when it happened. And he was like, yep, it's going to be about this cost. And
Yep.
we're
Was it
going to
still
pull
the
some from
dirt,
over
or did
here.
they put in any
Um,
concrete over the
so
years,
that
or is
is
it
something
mixed?
that was part of the renovation. It was
Okay.
just a dirt floor, so we had to
Yep.
add the vapor barrier. So it's that
Hmm.
plastic liner with the pea stone over it. And we
Yep.
also, before we did all that overlay, we did dig in a French drain on the
Perfect.
inside and outside. So
Yep.
we weren't getting much water. There was like a little
Hmm.
bit of seepage, but now it's bone dry. So
Yep.
it did what it
Yep.
was meant to. Yeah.
Yeah, which the Fieldstone Foundation is aesthetically so much more pleasing
Yeah.
than concrete, but
Yeah.
that's where you lose, like you don't have a basement to a degree or another,
Yep.
and
Exactly.
you have maintenance of a moving, living, breathing wall
Yes.
essentially, which
Yep.
yeah, so prepping that is huge, making sure water, that's where my geeky construction brain starts
Yes.
popping back in as my sixth grade project was water displacement and water
Oh, cool.
filtration. I did
Yeah.
a perk test in sixth grade for my science project.
That's
My
pretty
dad,
cool though,
my
right?
dad helped
Stuff
me a
that kids
lot.
would
Yeah,
never think of. Yeah.
no, not at all. I had a cup
Yeah.
with like the sand and rocks and like everything, and I showed water flowing through it and how it disperses out, and so the French drains. But that's
Yeah.
something that the contractor might not bring up, right? That's something the realtor might not bring up, maybe.
Hmm.
But that HUD consultant being there to say, "Hey, I'm going to help you nerf the edges as a first time buyer," to
Yep.
tell you like you might not even know. You're just looking at a structural wall that's keeping the house up and dirt, right?
Yep.
But what I'm
Basically.
seeing is, yeah, we got to make sure there's not weird water movement here. And if we can
Yep.
control the water, then you're not going to get water issues in your basement,
Exactly.
right?
That lead to those big ticket problems that
Yep.
mostly people don't know about until they come full circle and they start bothering them, or
Mhm.
right, they inspect it again when something's coming up like an appraisal, you're getting your house reappraised and then they notice some things, and it's all
Yep.
about preventative maintenance, not kind of backtracking and trying to fix the problem after the problem's already started. So I feel like that was a lot of the educational piece as well,
Mhm.
is even though I've done a lot of home inspections, a vapor barrier wasn't even on my mind in terms of health and safety, but it totally makes sense. And I
Mhm.
actually suffer from a lot of seasonal allergies. So that again, being a
Yep.
nerdy adult, I got excited for it. I'm like, oh my gosh, the air
Yep.
quality also. Like,
Yep. We
and
just
it's
put a water filter system in our house. And
oh,
like
very nice.
I
Yeah.
can't stop telling people about it. I even
Yeah.
asked the plumber, I was like, "Hey, do you want to be on my podcast talking about water filter systems?" He was like, "Not really. No, I
That's
do not."
that's
I
I'm
was like, "Well,
surprised though, because I feel like
yep,
that's going to be something I feel like more people will kind of hop on board with in terms of like clean water, clean
yep."
energy, all that. So,
He's a buddy of mine that did it on the side. He's like, "This
okay,
isn't
yeah.
my
He's
forte.
like,
I'm only
no.
doing this because I know you,
Yep.
and that is it. I don't actually want to attract that I know how to do this because I don't want to do these for anyone else." I was
Right.
like, "Okay, touche. I can get it. I'll go
Right.
find a different water filter guy to
Plumber.
interview." Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Because I'm geeking out about it. I'm like, my water is delicious.
Right.
It's
Right.
so
Nice and
good.
crisp. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And like that's the type of stuff you can do with the renovation loan. You can
Yes.
upgrade utilities, add central air, add, a mini split system, energy improvements. Like you
Yeah.
can do those type of things that, make your house safer, healthier, right? Like if your house built in 1889, right?
Yeah.
Like horsehair, like there was a lot of stuff we used back then that we were like, yeah, I don't know if this is good
This
or
is
bad for us.
probably fine.
Yeah,
And
this is
yeah,
asbestos, whatever. It keeps everything. It's fireproof.
I know.
It's fine. Like that. It just the lead paint. No one's gonna lick windows. Let's not worry about
Yep.
that, right? And the
Yep.
average house in I think New England is we must be creeping up on like close to 100 years old now at this point, right?
I
Because I
would
want to
even
say it
say
was
there's
like 70.
some, yeah, I feel, oh, that's so true since we got away from lead paint. But yeah, it's anything after 1978.
Mhm.
But yeah, I feel like there's so many old homes in our state as one of the oldest states in the country. It
Yep.
definitely is stuff that's worth covering because it's so common. And there's still so many homes that are standing from the
Mhm.
18 and early 1900s, which is awesome. I feel like it kind of goes along with that they don't build them like they used to kind of
Yep.
concept, or right. So it's just giving it a little bit of love, bringing it back to life really
Mhm.
is a cool concept too. Where we modernized it in the sense of modern amenities like plumbing and
Yep.
electrical, but we kept a
Mhm.
lot of the character, which is fun.
Yep. Which that's like the cool again back to the fun.
Yeah.
Because when I hear that, what I hear is you get the charm of the old house, but none of the horrible things on the inside that are going to give you
Yeah.
diseases to a degree or
Yeah.
another. In terms of like, you can at least attack some things, repaint, replace some
Yep.
of the flooring with new flooring, maybe vinyl or something, or porcelain, and do what you do, the vapor barrier, add in
Hmm.
central air. Like you can modernize it, but still keep all of that charm of New England. Like I
Yes.
almost see that.
Yeah.
I'm a car guy. That's the same as like taking like a classic muscle car to me and putting in like a modern gas engine and suspension and brake system. So
Yeah.
it drives like a newer car, but you're
Drives
driving
well.
an old Mustang. It
Yeah.
looks like an old Mustang, but it drives like a newer car. Like that, you can almost approach that in real estate of like how do you go buy an old, beautiful house, but kind of put in the new modern gas engine. right? The renovation loan can do that and help you keep all of the fun parts of the antique, but the functional parts of modern, you can go ahead and
Hmm.
flip, right? Which is huge.
Right, right. Yeah, it was a good time for sure. I would recommend it to a lot of first-time home buyers too, because just the price points we're working with in our area is
Mhm.
even though it might be at the top of your range, it still needs quite a bit of work. So I feel like it has a lot of potential.
Love it, love it. Well, I loved
Yeah.
hearing more of the story today, right? I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
the renovation loans, if you're a first time buyer listening to this, if you're a realtor listening to this, you have questions. I know we kind of jumped around a little all over the place. We didn't
Yeah.
approach this as like, hey, this is a first time home buyer perfect educational webinar on these, but I think we touched on a lot of good topics of, for me, it's that client that's on the edge, right? That gets hesitant looking at the open house, gets hesitant looking online, doesn't want to ask the questions. I think that person, go out, ask the questions. If you're already leaning in that direction, reach out, ask the questions, right? Because it might unlock the inventory that you didn't even know you wanted to look at until you
Yeah.
actually like sit down and go, okay, I got to hire a contractor, I got to talk to my realtor, talk to a lender, look at the numbers, and then go look at disaster houses, right?
Yes.
Which
Right.
again, construction part of my life, there's something fun about looking at disaster houses. I don't know why. I think it's just the flipper in me. Like I want to go look at a house that the grass is 6 feet tall, and
Right.
people would be nervous to walk in there. Like that to me is a house I'd be interested in looking at, which I know most buyers are not open for that house. So
Right.
you don't have
Right.
to go that far, but just know it can open up more inventory than what you were thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just at least worth investigating. Even if it's
Yep.
not the route for them, it's definitely worth kind of just looking into it and seeing. Because, like, maybe out of one out of every three buyers, it's going to be like, I had no idea. And this is
Mhm.
exactly what I want to do. So it's like always worth kind of checking out what your options are so you know you're getting the most bang for your buck. You're landing where you want it to land because
Mhm.
sometimes you might think a town is priced out and then this is how
Mhm.
you get into that town. So
Yep. That's how me and my wife got in our town.
yeah.
Was we bought a house that we could afford that needed a renovation, but we just didn't do it in the beginning.
Hmm.
And that when we were shopping, like that was the only way, like we knew we needed to get a house that was well below the top of the market, regardless of whatever neighborhood in our town we were looking at, right?
Yeah.
Like if any neighborhood in our town, if the house was nicely finished, we weren't affording it, right?
Yeah.
Unless it
Right.
was tiny, unless it
Yeah.
was like
And
me
you
and you
couldn't
can
fit the
live
whole
here.
family in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? No
Yeah.
kids at that time. So it
Yeah.
definitely helped us with that because we were able to look at it and go, well, we don't have kids. Let's just buy the disaster, right? Let's buy
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
house that needs a little bit of love for a few years. And that really opened up that door because we were in the industry. So she knew I wasn't a lender at the time. I knew about construction. She
Okay.
knew about renovation lending because she was a lender. So that opened up the door of like when she explained it to me, then I was like, oh, we could do that. She's like, yeah, we can go buy a house and we can get all this extra money. I'm like, oh, perfect. Let's go look
Right.
at.
Let's check it out. Yeah.
I want the house that smells bad and no one else is at the open house.
Yep.
And that's the house we literally bought. No one else is
Yep.
at the open house and it smelled like dog. It's
Yeah.
not, I was like, perfect. I can
Right.
smell the sweat
Exactly.
equity already. And it was purple and it needed siding and a whole lot of work. And I
Yeah.
was like, nailed it. Like
Right.
that is,
She's perfect.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it a masterpiece. And that's what we've
Yep.
done. We've slowly made it over time. So thank you for the time today. Love the
Yeah, thanks for
conversation.
having me. Yeah, it's
Perfect.
always great.
Okay. If anyone's interested in reaching out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm on basically all social media platforms, but always the quickest way to get in contact with me is a quick text or call and then able to answer any questions. My cell is 781-535-7061, and I'm always just a text or call away.
Love it, love it. I'm gonna have
Yeah,
your info in the description of the video.
perfect.
Been awesome. And hopefully next time we chat, it's maybe because you're looking at another fixer upper.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
All
Thank you,
right, I'll
Bonnie.
talk to you soon. Thanks, Mike.
Okay.